Hello, everyone. It is I, your favorite bard, back at it again with the white vans. And this is the Nevermore Nerds, the one podcast where things get wacky and crazy all of the time. We discuss all things nerd culture. And today we are joined by everyone's favorite narrator from the wasteland, Gamma Akutabi.
Oh, hello there.
Yeah, there you are. And we also, as always, are joined by everybody's favorite co-host and the Judge Man Supreme himself, Dare Bear.
I am goated with the sauce, busting it down sexy style, yo.
Yes. And what do you call it? Oh, okay. So the chat is working. For a second there, I couldn't see it. So I was like, wait, where is the chat? There we go. So Patience is with us today. Hey, Patience. Today we're going to be discussing manga. You know, like your favorite Japanese comics. And here's the crazy thing about it is that I read like an article that was like, hey, all of this got started because I was traveling to go hang out with Dare. And what was it? On one of my layovers, one of the flights, I had to wait 4 hours, so I bought myself some manga, and I actually ended up enjoying it a lot, which was Kaiju No. 8. Whenever I liked it so much, as I do with all things that I like, I research it into the ground. And one article that I found said, hey, this is part of what could potentially be the new big three of Shonen Jump. So we have Kaiju No. 8, Spy Family, and Dandadan. And I was like, oh, well, I'm fully caught up with what do you call it, Spy Family. I read the heck out of Spy Family. And I was like, and I'm halfway through Kaiju No. 8. So, if I can read Dandadan, we can absolutely do an episode on this. And that's where Brother Gamma comes in, because he drops the link and he's like, you can read all of Dandadan in that link. And I said, yes. So, I read through all of it. And so, yeah, I've been on a huge manga binge lately. And I kind of figured that this would be a good day to discuss some of it. And I put together some really awesome slideshows so that we could do that. But that's all I had to say. Pimp Demon has joined us in the chat. Hello, Pimp Demon. Welcome. We'll be discussing manga today. So here is kind of what I figured we could do, because I know that Gamma and I have both read these. So we're gonna explain it to Dare, right? We're gonna discuss the characters, the story plot, the art, which the art you will see on screen because I will be playing a slideshow, and then Dare at the end of it will rank them to tell us which one he thinks is best, and Brother Gamma and I will do the same.
I can tell you right now, Mambo number 5 is going to be number 1.
Okay, Mambo number 5. Pimp Demon says he does like manga, so all right, let's start the discussion. And I figure we started with the one that kind of propelled this subject. So let's start with Kaiju No. 8, which was written by Naoya Matsumoto, and it's kind of been running on Shonen Jump. It's a fun read. It's got some really interesting art. It is what do you call it? Sci-fi in its most classic sense. It's got like really hardcore, like, I don't know if you'll agree with me on this one, Brother Gamma, but I feel like it's got like some really old school sci-fi feel to it. It's a paramilitary organization that bands together with like really awesome weaponry, really awesome tech to fight giant monsters. I mean, that gets as anime as you can get,
I agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
It is a hint of a classic, and at the same time, you get the protagonist is the least that you expect.
Yes.
A mid 30s.
Yes, which is so weird for like is shown in manga that like your main character is a 30-year-old man.
Yeah, it's usually either a teenager
Yeah.
or some little kid. But nope, this time it went like, no, we're an adult over here. We even get a gut sporting out. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and so like he's not just a grown man, but on top of that, he's got like a menial job, like a job that is not something that's very glamorous, So like the cool people are out here with really awesome weapons killing kaiju. And his job is, once the kaiju's dead, we gotta clean up his corpse. So, he comes into like after the battle's over to just kind of like break down the kaiju body, separate the pieces, send it off to science land, wherever. And so it's kind of like just the absolute most where when it comes to like this is not your typical shonen fare, like your main character is not special. He's just a guy doing a job.
Yep. He's the equivalent of your janitor.
Yeah, he's
You may
basically...
have a fancy building, but the one that keeps that building looking all nice is your janitor.
Yes. It's really hilarious, and it also like makes for a lot of good comedy where so the basic premise is he always wanted to be the military guy taking down the kaiju, and this is probably the most anime that it gets, is that he made a childhood promise to his best friend at the time that they would fight kaiju together. Now, she succeeded. She's actually one of the top. She's one of the top brass. But he failed so hard and just like became a janitor.
Mm.
And so like the story kicks off whenever, he thought that his dream was over because, there's a cutoff for joining this organization, and he was too old. But then at some point they're like, hey, you know what? We got decreased birth rates. So we're gonna reopen the program, and we're gonna kick up the age cap up to 33. Mm-hmm. And he's 32 years old at the time that the story starts. So he's like, hell yes, I can chase my dream one last time. And so, like that's basically where it kicks off. So like a lot of the comedy comes from the fact that he's one of the older guys applying, and everyone else is just like a young kid. So everyone else is a shonen protagonist. They're teenagers and 20-year-olds, yes. But he's like way too old. So it's got a lot of like, I should not be here.
But at the same time, even though it's the most anime cliche that you could see, like, hey, it's a childhood promise between two friends.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a sense that no matter what, don't give up on your dreams.
Yes.
Chase it. And there's somebody behind you that will push you towards your dreams.
Yes, exactly.
And the person that is pushing him is the same person that he saved, and he got a glimpse. This guy actually is a hero.
Yeah, exactly. Like his protege, or I feel like protege is not exactly quite right. So he was the manager for this kid who joined the cleanup crew just so that he could study, so that he could take the entrance exam for the military organization, because sometimes kaiju cleanup comes up on the exam. So he joins, and he basically takes this kid under his wing, teaching him how to dismantle kaiju corpses. And this kid, after the guy saves him, like one of the kaijus wasn't dead whenever whenever they came in for the cleanup. So the guy jumps in, pushes him out of the way, and the kid kind of gets this impression. It's like, hey, this guy's a hero. He should never have given up on his dream. He should follow it because he's got that spirit, So, you got like a good friendship that blossoms between them. Like I said, at first I was like protege, but that doesn't feel quite right,
It is a friendship, not a protege.
Right.
At first it was like, oh, you're my protege, but nah, they're bros.
Yeah, now they're bros. Yeah. It's a little difficult to read it too because like sometimes the young kid Ichikawa, he always calls him sir. He always treats him like very like with like this air of respect, like like you're my superior. When in reality, like whenever they're going through their tests, I was like, he is not your superior, dude. He is struggling. He is struggling to keep up with you. And like that is, you're right, he is the weakest. They have like these suits that they wear that basically amplify their strength so that they can fight kaiju, and depending on how much power you can draw from the suit, that kind of like gives you an idea of where you sit. So if I remember correctly, Ichikawa drew like maybe like 70 something % out of his suit, so it's like, oh yeah, he's got great potential. But then our main character, Kafka, draws exactly 0% out of his suit. And
zero.
And he has to struggle to draw 1%. Like, several chapters later, he's like, look at this, I'm drawing 1%.
And he's making such a high fuss about it too, like, look at me, flexing and everything.
Yeah, he's like, look at me, I'm drawing 1%. And everyone's like, yeah, that's not a big deal, dude. We were all drawing, like, at least 30% at the start. So it's like really comical in that regard. But as always, like it's got like its good tale. Like Kafka does work really hard, and even though he's not the best fighter, he does he does kind of what do you call it? He does have a lot of intelligence that he puts towards like solving problems in ways that other people wouldn't get.
Mm-hmm.
His job at like tearing apart kaiju corpses has given him some pretty decent insight into their anatomy. So like while everyone else is just like dropping kaiju bodies left and right, he's going around just kind of like digging and kind of like checking. He's like, okay, well, where's their core? Where should we shoot? And let's see. Oh, this one's reproductive organs are still intact, which means that chances are that it's dropping eggs and dropping like baby kaiju here left and right. So, we should probably eliminate that like as soon as possible. So, he's not the strongest, but he does have like a good head on his shoulders. He can kind of like think his way through problems very easily.
And that is a fact. And there's also the conceited perfect girl. Which
yes,
which they have quite an entry. Like, I want that parking spot, and he tells her no, and then she just simply tosses his car.
Yes,
not his car, the company car.
The company car, yeah. So Kikoru Shinomiya is the girl, and she is probably the most anime protagonist out of everyone. Or I don't know. She's basically like the rival, which is where it gets hilarious because he's a 32-year-old man, and his main rival is like this 17-year-old girl.
Yep. Which I think that she has a crush on him on some scenes.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, they did bring that up. They're like, hey, she has a crush on him, and it's a little weird because like she's like 17 and he's like 32. But at the same time, it's like, like, hey, when you were a kid, you had crushes on older people all the time. Like it's not weird. It'd be weird if he had a crush back, but like if she's like, oh, he's my senpai, and they don't dig too deep into it, you can kind of leave that one alone. But
and her backstory is so messed up.
Yeah.
And on the latest chapter, it made me teary-eyed when she says, "Help me, mommy."
Yes.
I'm like, oh.
Because her mom used to be the #1 kaiju eliminator. And she got... And we can get into, like, this is why the manga is called Kaiju No. 8, is because the kaiju are treated basically like a natural disaster. And the only ones that you give names to are the ones that are exceedingly strong. So her mom, Kikoru's mom, got killed by Kaiju No. 6, who was, up until that point, recognized as the king of all kaiju. Because it was just exceedingly strong. And whenever he showed up, he was a big problem. and it took a lot of people to bring him down, and not a lot of them survived, including her mom, who, as we said, was previously #1 of the kaiju eliminators.
I
So
shed you not. When they say king of all kaijus, I hope inside of me was like, they're gonna put Gojira in here.
yeah,
Please.
I thought so
put him
too.
in
I
here.
was like, even if he's not like exactly Godzilla, he's gonna look a lot like him. I bet you. And they didn't, and I was like, okay, well, like I guess, but still. So going back to like why the manga is called Kaiju #8, it's because after our main boy Kafka saves his bro Ichikawa, they get taken to a hospital, and it's there where Ichikawa tells him, "Hey, you shouldn't give up on your dream. You should follow it, especially now that you have another chance." And he decides, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'm done with being a janitor. Maybe I should try again. And right when that happens, some kind of kaiju bug shows up, and
The,
it forces
the
its
most disgusting bug I've seen.
yeah, it did not look pretty, and so it kind of like very parasitically, it forces itself into Kafka's mouth so that he swallows it, and Kafka gains the ability to transform into kind of like I want to say like a human-sized kaiju, but tell me if he doesn't remind you a lot of Ultraman from like the Ultraman series, where he's
He
basically
does.
yeah, right?
He does remind me of Ultraman,
Hmm.
but at the same time, I'm like, he could transform at will.
Yeah. Yes, he
So it's like a Power Ranger.
yeah, kind of like a Power Ranger, except that instead of like a futuristic armor suit, he's transforming into like a kaiju, like a mini kaiju, and the defense force recognizes him as a threat when they realize that his level is really high. So they're like, okay, this is one of the ones that we have to name. So we Kaiju #6 killed Kikoru's mom, and that one was up until then the king of kaiju. We don't know anything about Kaiju #7, but then this guy, our main character, Kafka, is Kaiju #8.
And that is correct. He's number 8.
Mhm.
And I believe Kaiju number 9
Yes.
is the main antagonist.
Kaiju #9 is the main antagonist of the series, who appears to be another human-sized kaiju. He can transform into a person and just kind of blend in with society. And it looks to me like he has the ability to genetically modify other kaiju. Because
Modify them and create them.
create them,
Based-
yes. And his whole thing is like, how do I make them stronger so that these humans can't kill them? And every time he shows up, every time he shows up, shit hits the fan, man. Like
Ooh.
it is like nobody like it's usually like if you're in the area whenever Kaiju #9 shows up, you're not gonna walk away. You're gonna be taken to the hospital because he is a beast.
You either evolve during that fight or you get to mop the floor.
Yeah, you either evolve or you die. This is a crazy a crazy manga, and like he is dangerous, and it does kind of have like that really heavy sense of dread whenever he shows up, because it's like if Kaiju #9 is showing up, that's because things are about to get dangerous. And so like I feel like as a villain he's fantastic, and as what's it called, I don't know, like I think this is a really really solid manga. And here's the thing that I heard, a lot of people are saying it reminds them of Attack on Titan a little bit, because you got like the human people taking on giant monsters.
I want to say yes, but at the same time, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, so it's kind of close, but it's got like a very different personality,
I don't see an old man going to his shop. I don't see Kaiju's number 8's dad coming to his shop and going like, "I'm gonna Put this needle on the back of your neck.
Yeah, so it's really fun, like I would say, like, okay, so if Attack on Titan is Attack on Titan, Kaiju number 8 is like Attack on Titan, except it's not as dark. Because Attack on Titan goes to some really dark places. Kaiju number 8 is a lot more lighthearted. It's like the main hero is not going to become a bad guy. As a matter of fact, a lot of his story revolves around the fact that he doesn't know what he is anymore. Because he's like, everyone's treating him like a monster. Like you are one of them. But he keeps trying to tell him, like, no, I'm on your side. I am not a monster. I will never be a monster. And one of the things that and it shows up on the slideshow here, where he actually goes to fight against the guy who's the head of the Kaiju Elimination Corps, and basically the whole thing is like, well, you're a monster, you're Kaiju number 8, you're not human, and you don't have a heart anymore. What you have is a core, which, whatever it was that forced itself into your mouth transformed you. You're not a human anymore. And so they're fighting each other. And like when the kaiju instinct takes over, like, kind of like a survival thing, because the guy had him on the ropes, instead of going in for the kill, he actually stops himself and, like reverts back to his human form. And he's basically like, no, I'm not a kaiju. My name is Kafka Hibino, and I'm a human, and it's just kind of like this, that big heavy thing.
And the person that he was fighting was the father of the 17-year-old girl.
Yes.
Which is the strongest human.
Yeah, he's the strongest human right now, like after the mom died during the mission. Yeah.
And I believe that he uses Kaiju number 2.
Yes.
As his weapon.
His weapon was built out of the remains of Kaiju number 2, yes.
Which that's also something that they do in the series as well.
Yeah, that's right.
They destroy Kaijus and they turn them into parts. Be it a suit, armor, or gauntlets. In the case of one person, he had the eyes of a Kaiju.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which happens to be the best guy on the whole series.
The best character in the whole series is just like a freaking gaming gremlin, like which he's like captain of the number 1 squad, Gen Narumi, and he, like, everyone just hails him as like, yeah, he's the best protege, like the most up and coming. He'll definitely run this show at some point, but he's just like, I just want to sit in my room and play on my PS5 and play with my Gundam models, It's just like, oh my god. And his room is a mess, it's like a basic gamer den. It's just like, it's got fast food trash everywhere, and he's got like his PlayStation, and he's just like his collectible anime statues and like boxes of Amazon buys, and I'm like, oh my god.
And he has the nerve to ask a new recruit, can I borrow money while he's getting Amazon boxes?
I love that, like, as a matter of fact, I think it's in the slideshow where he's basically like, oh my god, she comes in like, oh, you need to trade me. And he's all like, okay, first things first, please let me borrow money. I don't know what happened. I got paid yesterday, but then all the money disappeared out of my account. And then she's like, look at all the Amazon boxes around you. Of course it disappeared. It was just like, oh my god. But he is strong though. He technically 1v1s kaiju all the time.
And that's something about him that he says to even his people.
Yeah.
I don't care about your background. Just show me power.
Yeah.
That's all that I want from you.
Yeah, in the translation that I read, which I read the Shonen Jump one, he basically says, all I want you to do is show me skills that pay the bills. That's it. And it's just like, as a matter of fact, there it is in the slideshow right now, him in his gamer den. But it is a really fun series with really interesting characters. A lot of them, like, I thought I wasn't going to like, but I ended up loving. And the art style is clean, man. Like, there is a lot of, like, our 2-page spreads with huge cityscapes, and and like they're drawn so technically well, where it's like you have like buildings that are just falling to pieces, and you can recognize this is a building falling apart. A lot of the times in manga, whenever you're drawing just like infrastructure, you just kind of like do the very minimal, right? You focus on the things that you want to see. But this person draws entire cityscapes that look amazing, and like damage inflicted to it because of like these giant creatures stepping all over it. And it's not hard to tell what's what. Like you can tell that used to be a car, that was a building, this is the monster. Like here's power lines. Like the attention to detail is sublime. This is just like a really, really fantastic show. I say show, but like it did get greenlit for an anime, by the way, and I think Toho Studios is going to be making it.
Oh, that's gonna be great.
Yeah,
Another thing about it that I find that I love is the fact that every kaiju is unique.
true.
They don't feel like
Yes.
recycle villains over and over.
Yeah, no, 100%. Every kaiju feels 100% original and unique. Like the things that they do, like the way that they move, like biologically, they just look really interesting to look at.
And the damage, like you mentioned as well, the damage that they cause, it shows on the it shows on the panel,
Yeah.
and it affects civilians for days.
Yes, yes. And one more thing that I should mention here is so it's I think it's by Toho Animation that the anime will be made. Some of the stuff on their roster includes My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen, Psycho Pass, Doctor Stone, and Spy Family. So if you like any of those animes, then that's who's making Kaiju number 8. So it's gonna look phenomenal.
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
At the same time, I wanted it to be the same anime place that made what's the name of that series? Parasite.
Yeah, actually, that I would have been 100% behind that too. As a matter of fact, who makes Parasite?
Madhouse, I think it was.
Madhouse. Okay, okay. Yeah, no, that would have been good too. A lot of people were saying like we want Studio Mappa because, like I said, it reminds them of Attack on Titan, and that's who made Attack on Titan. So they were like, yeah.
But yeah, that series is unique and awesome. There's something that you almost forgot to mention.
Hmm.
That some characters they reach a plateau, and once they reach that plateau, they cannot get past it
That's true.
of releasing their strength.
That's right.
Very few pass it, and the person that overcame that plateau and keeps growing exponentially is the bro,
Mm-hmm.
the one and only bro. The reason why he does it is honorable in a way. He's doing it so that way Kafka doesn't have to transform to Kaiju number 8 as often.
Right.
Due
Because
to the fact, oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it was a reveal in one of the latest chapters that it seems that he's having some side effects from transforming into Kaiju number 8. Like he's there are parts of his body that are not returning 100% back to human form anymore. So the more he becomes Kaiju number 8, the higher the chances are that there might come a day where he might not be able to turn back.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which that makes it more unique.
Hmm.
It's not like, hey, here's this power, use a Winnie Lily, and you're not gonna have any drawbacks.
Mhm.
No, you're gonna be having a drawback. You're gonna become the berry monster that you hate
Yeah.
if you cannot control it.
So it's a really, really fun. It's a breezy read too. It was like, what was it, like 68 chapters, and it felt to me like I was done with it before I knew it. Like, so I started it like the week that I went to visit Dare, and I was finished like the next week. Like, yeah, I came back on like what, on Sunday. I was done with it by Wednesday. I read the entire series, so I was like, oh, that's pretty great. But
As a matter of fact, I remembered that you were ahead of me.
yeah.
You were ahead of me, and then I was like, what's the name of that manga? Okay. Then I got ahead of you and I told you, nah, Kafka is not the guy.
Yeah.
This guy is the guy over here.
Yeah, you passed me up, which was crazy because you were like, "Oh, what's the name of it?" And you read ahead of me. So like at one point you were like towards the end, and I was like, "Oh wow, you really picked up on that." So that was fun. But I'm excited for it. I would give it like a high recommendation to people if they happen to like sci-fi and like classic kaiju movies, because it does feel like that. And it's just like it is a very classic anime feel to it. Like it really feels like that, and it's got good characters. It's got fantastic art. So I would give it probably like out of all the manga that I've read, I would give this one like a solid 9. Like this is just a fun read.
I agree on the solid 9.
Yeah.
And also all the characters, even though they were there, the people that took the test with him, they don't feel like sideliners.
That's true.
They get a little spotlight here and there about like, hey, they could still overcome things even though they're weaker. And when they introduced the captains there, besides them, the main guy, the main captain,
right?
There's also another captain there, and he drinks on the job.
Right.
They're having a whole meeting conversation going on, and he's just drinking sake like, oh, really?
Yeah. Like,
that sucks.
Every character has a unique personality, and every one of them gets their chance to shine, which is hard to do in like a ensemble anime type situation. Like for example, in Naruto, I can tell you about 3 characters: Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi. But if you ask me what the hell Tenten is about, I have no clue. Because I'm like, geez, she wasn't important.
What?
Ever.
No. I'll be like, you don't know about Jiraiya?
Oh, no, of course I know about Jiraiya. He's the GOAT.
There you go.
But, yeah, so like the main ones that people like are drawn to are those. The same thing with like My Hero Academia, which Dare and I discussed with Miss Creepy Tales on a previous stream, where he was like, I know 3 characters. I know Frog Girl, Vampire Girl, and Deku. And I'm like, that's true. Because who cares about the guy who can make tape? It's really hard to make people care about them. But
no. I bet you know another character. You know the perv of that series.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Because everybody knows the perv of the series.
Everyone knows the perv. Yeah, you're 100% right. But yeah,
I can hate Great Boy.
Everyone hates Great Boy.
Great Boy is the worst person in that whole anime.
Well, that's the thing about it. I was hoping like he has a bad going, but then after his training with his mentor, I was hoping like, maybe he's gonna come up a little bit more mature, and has his growth sport, and people don't even recognize him, and they get like, wow, you actually look hot. And then once they realize that he's a perv, they go like, no.
Yeah. And Pimp Demon, I'm not saying that I don't recognize Obito or Itachi. Those are also great characters. What I'm saying is that a lot of like the sideline characters, like they get maybe one time to shine, and then after that, their story is over. Like, so for example, like a couple of examples that I can give in Naruto is that Neji got exactly 2 times to shine, and that was the first time in the Chunin exams where he beat the crap out of Hinata, and then the second time was all the way at the very end where he died to protect Hinata. And in between, there wasn't a lot that happened with him, Same thing with Rock Lee. Rock Lee was really important that first time he showed up and showed everyone that you could taijutsu your way to victory over ninjutsu, and that was cool. And then after that, it was his fight with Kimimaro, and then after that, you kind of don't hear about him a lot. He shows up for missions here and there, but he doesn't really do much.
Unless you watch the Rock Lee series.
unless you watch the Rock Lee series, which was the thing. So, I mean, like, there is side characters, 100%. A lot of the times they don't do a lot, and that's kind of like what gets me is, whenever you have like a big ensemble one, is you want everybody to have their time to shine, but sometimes that's a little too much to ask, especially when you have like over like 15, 20 characters. Um, why doesn't the tape guy go work for the post office? I feel like that's something where his quirk would have been better suited, yes.
It is, but at the same time, his tape will be a little too strong to break.
Yeah. So here we go. We're gonna move on to the next one. Like I said, I think we agree that Kaiju number 8 is a solid 9. But the next one, I cannot wait to hear how we summarize this one, Brother Gamma, because this is one of the most unorthodox manga I have ever read, and that is Dandadan by Yokinobu Tatsu.
And
One of the
the
only ones
fact
that I've
is that
seen.
I read it.
Yeah,
I
go.
read it. I read it. Then I told Seraphine, like, read it.
Mhm.
As soon as he starts reading it, he goes like, I love this.
Excuse me for a second, taking a bite of pizza. Excuse me.
No, it's okay.
I just don't want to
Well,
eat right next to the microphone because I know most people didn't come here for the
or,
mukbang ASMR.
we might actually get some more views over there.
Right.
They actually get nice, about 15,000 views after 2 minutes.
I don't
I'm like,
understand why.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I don't get it. But here we go. Dandadan is one of the most unorthodox series that I have ever read. It is so out there, and it's one of the only ones that I've ever seen that's been rated explicit. Um, Another thing that
Explicit? You're kidding me, right?
no, it's been rated explicit. Yes, like it's got explicit content stamped right on it. You can't even download it on the Shonen Jump app because
That
it's
must be the Shonen Jump app because the site that I watch it doesn't give me nothing explicit. I'm like, okay, read away.
yeah. Uh, so here's basically, and one of the things that I want to start off by saying is that the art in Dandadan is insane. Like the artist can pivot really hard and just make really abstract things seem so simple. And I chose some of the most iconic things that I could remember for the slideshow.
Mhm.
But basically, he can make things look very real, and then in the very next page, it doesn't look real whatsoever. You know, they're and maybe you'll back me up on this one, but I feel like one of the biggest things about Dandadan is that it's a it's a supernatural manga, and it feels to me like every supernatural thing has kind of the ability to warp reality. That's not something they say in the manga, but it is something that's what it feels like to me because every time that there's aliens or ghosts around, reality gets really fucky. Like there's things that don't make sense. Like for example, whenever the Loch Ness monster is in their school, suddenly their school,
Nessie.
yeah, suddenly their school is flooded. Like, and there's no reason for that. There's just like it's flooded, or like what was I gonna say? There's the battle wherever they're at, like the music hall, and all of the composers come to life from their portraits. As a matter of fact, that's on the slideshow right now.
Yeah.
So it's just like reality gets really weird whenever something supernatural is happening, which is really cool. I gotta say because like it makes for some really interesting art. One of my favorite arcs in the manga was there's this one where they're dealing with like a Mongolian death worm, and it's living underground and it's swallowing up houses, but the houses that get swallowed up become a giant maze underground, and it's just like this really crazy thing. So the basic premise here is two main characters. You got Momo Ayase, who's the girl. And you got the main boy whose name is Ken Takakura, but she gave him the nickname Okarun because
Oh, Karun.
because Ken Takakura is the name of her favorite actor, and she's like, no, I'm not calling you that. What's it called? It's Momo and Okarun, and Okarun believes in UFOs, but he doesn't believe in ghosts. And Momo believes in ghosts, but she doesn't believe in UFOs. So they do kind of like this I dare you thing where he's like, I know a place where aliens show up, and I bet you're so scared that you leave there immediately. And she says, I know a place where a ghost shows up, and I bet you won't go. So they do. They each go to the different places, and they're on the phone with each other the entire time. And plot twist, aliens and ghosts are both real. And so she gets abducted by aliens, and he gets possessed by a ghost. And the aliens accidentally awaken her psychic powers, and the ghost accidentally gives the boy her superpowers.
No, the ghosts actually rip off his. Let's call them Dragon Balls.
That's true too, and I think that's a lot of the reason why it's rated explicit is because it has a lot of like really crass humor, you know. So like the ghost steals his junk basically, and so a lot of the plot revolves around them trying to find the ghost to take his junk back. And it's just like, oh my god. And
it gets so bad that even a classmate goes like, how is it that the hottest girl is talking to you dirty and you're talking dirty back to her, but I cannot do that?
Yes, so like there's this whole misconception with that one classmate, and he's in the slideshow. I put him in there. He's the guy that says 10-gallon wiener. But like the whole thing is, you know, she's talking about like, we found your balls. Like, we know where they are. A spirit has them. And the guy's all like, you know, how is it that you can talk to this fine young lady by saying such dirty things? Like it's supposed to be like foreplay or something, but that's not it whatsoever. He's just like, this entire time he's been missing his junk. So she's just like, we know where your junk is. And he's like, oh, okay, great. We got to go and get my junk back. We got to get my hands back on my junk. And this guy just like completely misreads the entire thing. And he's just like, I can't believe it. You know, like, how do you do this? How do you talk to women like this? And it's just like the most hilarious misunderstanding. But it's really fun. A lot of the powers are really, really interesting. So, for example, Momo's psychic power kind of give her the ability to sense like supernatural things as they're happening. She can kind of like grab onto things that you shouldn't be able to grab onto, like ghosts. You know, she's got kind of like a Spider-Man like ability where she can like grab onto things with her psychic powers and kind of like swing herself around. And let's see, Okarun, after he manages to expel the ghost of Turbo Granny from his body, the
greatest granny there is.
Yes, Turbo Granny, the ghost. Whenever he manages to exorcise her spirit away, he accidentally just exorcises her spirit, but he leaves her powers. So he's super fast. But you know, like, so Momo has psychic powers like telekinesis and all that, and then Okarun is just like really fast, and they add other characters to the roster eventually. So like, for example, I forget what the name of the other girl is, but she basically, as she's dying, she takes on the powers of a ghost called Acrobat Silky. So she's very acrobatic. She can jump around, and basically, it looks like she's fighting ballet style. And of course, we got Momo's childhood crush, Gigi, who gets possessed by a ghost called the Evil Eye, and the Evil Eye just wants to fight. So he
wants to destroy everything.
Yeah, so he's got like this very Hulk power set where, you know, the moment he becomes the Evil Eye, he's just gonna wreck everything around him. So it's It's really fun, and the greatest thing about it is that there's no like limit to what can happen. You know, there's ghosts, there's cryptids, there's aliens, and some of the really crazy plots. Like I don't know if you remember, like the shrimp guy, the boxer shrimp alien, who
Oh yes,
who
the
took
one with the sun.
yeah, who took a job to save his son because his son needs a blood transfusion all the time. And at the end of the episode, they're like, "Oh, is this what your blood is? This is what we call milk." so, so he comes down on his UFO to like abduct cows, and it's just like, oh my god.
And every time that something with aliens happen,
Mhm.
here's a Karun taking notes like, yes,
Yes.
this is a fact.
Yeah, because Okarun is the alien nerd, so every time something alien happens, he's just like jotting it down. It's like, okay, so aliens do abduct cows. Interesting, interesting. And it's just like, damn it. But it does take a lot of inspiration from Japanese folklore, I feel. Like a lot of the ghosts are very heavily influenced by yokai.
Oh yes.
A lot of the alien stuff is absolutely 100% Western inspired. Like you got like, and they'll show up on the slideshow, but you got like the weird shaped aliens. Every time you see a person that doesn't look like a person or like looks too much like a person, that's an alien. You know, because and that's the one thing I love about the art style in Dandadan is that the author knows how to make it so like people look like people, but then there's other people that look so uncanny that you're like that looks like a person, but it's not. Which is one of the hugest things in alien lore is that, you know, like a lot of the times when they invade, they try to look human, but somehow they fail. And I think he captures that perfectly in his art. Every time he draws an alien trying to be a person, it doesn't look like it, you know, like, so it looks like a person, but it's not though, you know? And I feel like he captures that perfectly in the art. And, as a matter of fact, like I think the cult here that you're seeing on the screen right now, that they look very much like they should be people, but they're not. They're not people.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, the aliens with Nessie
yes.
on that on the screen that just appeared.
Yeah.
All three of them are aliens, and they all look alike.
Yes, and they all look alike. And there was that one scene, and that's the one on the screen right now, where they wanted to hire like what was it, like a traditional like shaman band so that they could play music so that they could exorcise the evil eye, but instead they get like this 80s metal hair band, and it's just like. And it's like,
Best exorcism there was.
right. And September, yes, we will send you the link to the site so you can read this. It is just like really, really hilarious. And like right now we have like the alien abduction panel up on the screen. So, you know, like the author is really good at making things look like very realistic and very stylized at the same time. It's just really, really good. And I gotta say this, I love the way that that Okarun and the other girl look like whenever they transform into their yokai forms. It looks a little bit like Bleach whenever somebody turns into a hollow.
Oh, I was gonna say that too.
Right? Yeah.
You notice? I was like,
Yeah.
he may have got inspiration from Tai Kubo over here.
Yes, and that's what I felt like too. I'm like, I can see that he definitely got inspiration from a lot of different sources, and I was like, and the yokai look is definitely like Bleach inspired. I feel it. One thing that they touched on in the plot that I thought was interesting, but I don't think is something that the author intended to take too seriously. I think I honestly think that he is kind of a conspiracy nut. And he's just throwing out some like wild conspiracies the same way that you would hear them, you know, just being thrown around on the internet. And they might be true, they might not be. But like he had Okarun say that one thing in one of the chapters whenever he's like, I bet you that this is why alien invasions always fail, is because there's yokai on Earth, and it feels to me like the aliens are coming from a different dimension, but the yokai are acting kind of like Earth's immune system. they like zero in and target anything that's not supposed to be here and just kind of like fight it off. And Okarun said it, and everybody just immediately dismissed it, like, nah, you're crazy. But I was like, that would be a
That makes sense, though.
that would be a hell of an interesting plot point. I would love to hear more about that. I was like, that is crazy. I love the idea of that. But yeah, so Dandadan is insane, and the sense of humor is very is very crass. There's a lot of like, there's a lot of dick jokes, but they don't get old because every time they get delivered in such a weird way that you're not expecting it. So it's always kind of like, it always catches you off guard, and it always makes you laugh. The characters are crass. They do kind of like curse at each other a lot. And
a lot.
yeah, a lot. There's a panel that I know I included in the slideshow where Momo, whenever she's working at a maid cafe because she needs to make money, and her friends and Okarun show up, and she says, "Welcome to her establishment, you sacks of shit." I was like, damn it.
Yep. Yeah, she treated him the worst.
Yeah, so she I don't want to say that Momo is like a bad girl, like how they make like tough girls in anime that that they're just kind of like really what do you call it, insufferable, because she's not. She's actually like very timid, very shy, but she also
strikes me. She strikes me more of like a tsundere, though.
A little bit, yes. She does kind of put up like a really tough front, but she really isn't that tough. She kind of is dealing with everything and that's the other thing. I feel like the teenagers in this deal with everything in the exact way that teenagers would. Like at first they're like really freaked out, and then they're like, okay, it is scary, but honestly, how cool is this? Like they're like really psyched about it, and at the same time they're like, okay, but just because I have this power doesn't mean it falls on me to deal with ghosts every time they show up. They got like several chapters where like, oh, something weird's happening, and they're like, yeah, but I don't have to deal with it, until they get dragged in to deal with it, and they're like, damn it, I guess I have to deal with it.
I'm gonna call it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Once they make the anime of Dandadan, people are gonna love the grandma. They're gonna say, yep, this is a certain ILF season because she's the hottest grandma there is.
That's right. I love how whenever her grandma first showed up, like, always make it sound like, oh, well, her grandma runs a shrine, like she's an older lady, she raised her from the time that she was a kid, and, like she's just like this very well-known medium. I was expecting someone like Kaede from Inuyasha.
Yeah, and I was going like, oh, she might end up looking like Turbo Granny for all I know.
Right. But like the grandma, when she shows up, she looks like she's not older than 28.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like she's got the tough lady mentality down. She's like, she almost doesn't even act like a medium, but like if you've ever seen like manga with like some delinquent guys in it that are always carrying around like a baseball bat, like, they look like they'll beat you up for your lunch money. That's exactly what the grandma's like, and it's just like, what the hell is happening? So the characters are interesting. I definitely can say that the most fleshed out characters are definitely Momo and Okarun. It feels like the other characters are kind of like they have like a joke that they wrote the character around, and then they just kind of like lean into it. Like, the other girl, who I swear her name keeps escaping me, the girl who's also Acrobat Silky, her whole thing is she believes she's the hero of the story. And every time that comes up, that's the joke. She's the hero of the story. Everybody should listen to her.
Yep, she's the hero.
Yeah, she's the chosen one.
Okarun. She and Okarun are the heroes.
Yeah, she and Okarun are the heroes because she thinks Okarun's great.
While Momo is just a villain trying to manipulate Okarun.
Right. And Gigi, who's Momo's childhood crush, is immature as hell. And that's his whole thing. Like
people love him.
Yeah, people love him because he's funny, but he's immature as hell. So like he's really hilarious, and he's arguably got the darkest power because when he turns into the evil eye, all he wants is to kill all humans. So it's just like,
Yep.
what the hell? So like, it feels like a lot of the side characters are written as a joke, and they just kind of like keep leaning into that joke. But Momo and Okarun are written really well.
But let me throw this at you.
Uh-huh.
Think of their powers,
Mhm.
the type of personality that they are, and they get worse.
Yes.
The guy is extremely happy, but
Right.
he has a complete 180 when he turns into Evil Eye.
Right. Because yeah, he's a happy, carefree dude, but when he turns into Evil Eye, there's no happiness left. He's just angry and wants everything to die.
And Okarun is always depressed.
That's true too. I didn't notice that, but yes, whenever Okarun is Okarun, he's kind of like yeah, you know, a nerdy kid with a lot of interest and stuff like that. But whenever he turns into like his yokai form, he's just like, everything's such a drag. I don't want to do this, which is weird because, you know, he's the speed guy. So like the speed guy having like this really whatever personality is just really hilarious.
The only one that I find that I'm going like, okay, I don't see any changes in her is the rival. The
Yeah.
one that thinks she's a heroine.
Yeah, and
She's the same whether she's normal or the spirit.
that's right. Acrobat Silky, when she's her human form, she's the rival, and when she's in her yokai form, she's also the rival. There's no change there. But yeah, I think Dandadan is super interesting. It's got like a weird premise. The art is really crazy wild, and I think one thing that I would use to one thing that I would say to describe it is that it's very gritty. Like the art style is very textured. But just like Kaiju number 8, it's got like some high detail into backgrounds and stuff like that. And
yes, Pimp Demon. He turns into Shikamaru.
yes, he turns into Shikamaru, exactly. But you know, he's got some like sense of grandiosity with his art, and the monsters look really uncanny. They look like they would exist, but at the same time, they look like something you would see in a dream. And I absolutely love that about Dandadan. The art just looks really freaking amazing. And like I said, you know, I am of the impression that the aliens, and which the aliens are on screen right now, it's the three guys who look identical but like don't look exactly quite human. But it feels to me like every time that a ghost or a cryptid or an alien shows up, they are unwittingly warping reality around them because things start happening in the world around them that just shouldn't happen. It like defies physics, it defies science. It's like really crazy.
That is correct. But at the same time, if you notice,
Mhm.
there hasn't been an instance when a ghost and an alien are occupying the same space. It's either a ghost only or an alien only. that area.
Well, actually, in the first chapter, because whenever the aliens were trying to reproduce with Momo, and she was still on the phone with Okarun, Turbo Granny moved through the phone to show up on the alien airship.
That's the only instance, and
Right.
that was on the beginning. But otherwise,
Mhm.
after that, it's like, okay, here's an sci-fi element. They're gonna manipulate the entire area,
Right.
and here's a ghost element, and this is where the whole ghost thing is gonna happen.
Exactly. So it can shift really wildly from one to the other. It can be super sci-fi 1 second and then be like super ghost the next. And I feel like he does an excellent job at balancing the different genres. So I mean, like Dandadan, I did not know what to expect going into it. And after reading it, I felt very confident in saying I have never read anything like it before. This is like really out there, really wild. And it call me crazy, here, but tell me that it doesn't feel like it's taken elements from the entire horror narrator community and just splashed it together into one into a series.
You're not supposed to know that.
That's what it feels like to me. It feels like almost every different story arc just took a different horror narrator and just like, we're going to write the story that's their life. And it's just like, this is crazy. I love it. So
Yep, and here's Bard just waiting for the one and only Mothman to show up.
I'm waiting for Mothman. They had the Flatwoods monster. They had the Loch Ness monster. I think they had like they mentioned Bigfoot kind of offhanded in one chapter.
They did.
They got kaijus. And Pimp Demon says Turbo Granny beats Goku. Yeah, 100% Turbo Granny beats Goku. But yes, so like it's got everything, man. It's got cryptids, it's got aliens, it's got ghosts, it's got monsters. It is crazy, and I freaking love it. It's really hard to describe anything that's even remotely like this. This is really out there.
It is out there indeed.
Yeah.
And most importantly, they all got balls.
Yeah. The entire series up to this point has been a quest to retrieve Okarune's balls.
Yep. Which apparently they power up whatever gets it.
Exactly. Why do his balls power up ghosts and monsters? I don't understand.
Like, how?
Oh, and in this panel right here that's on screen, the Loch Ness monster just using a Kamehameha to destroy, like, this classroom. It was like, what is happening in this manga, man?
Ness. And he was all hyped up about, oh, it's Nessie. Oh, no.
Yeah, Okarune is like, it's Nessie. And then he's like, oh, no. All right, but that's Dandadan, and now time to move on to what's more than likely the most mainstream out of all of them, and that is Spy Family by Tetsuya Endo. Brother Gamma, you caught up on all of Spy Family, huh?
I'm sad to say that I'm on chapter 35, but I've seen the spoilers.
How do you
Looking around, I was like, hey, I want to see all of Anya's faces. And then they show me all her looks, and I'm like, I want to watch the anime.
You should. I recommend the anime. It's also done by Toho, and it looks amazing. One thing that I will say about the anime is that sometimes they use CGI, and it's hard to tell at first. But the moment you see it, you can't unsee it. Like you will always notice it after that. They
Hold on, are we talking like CGI like Dragon Ball CGI when they try to make the 2D look lazy?
No. So what they do is they use CGI, and yes, they do make it look like it belongs in the anime. They go like the extra mile to kind of make it feel like it blends in really well. But what they do is, and a lot of the times that I've noticed it, it's usually whenever there's a crowd. Instead of drawing the individual crowd, they use a lot of CGI models to fill out people. And it's hard to tell at first unless you're really looking for it. If you're really looking for it, you'll find it no problem. But like, what's it called? Like the moment you see it, every time there's a crowd, you will notice it. It's like so hard to not notice. Yeah, so now that I've told you about it, the first time you see a crowd, you're going to be like, yeah, there's the CGI. I can see it. But it doesn't take away from it, I don't feel. I feel like it's very well used in the spaces that it's used. I don't feel like they use it like exceedingly. So, I mean, not terrible. But so it's not like, I don't know if you ever saw Zoids, but it's not Zoids.
Yes, I did saw Zoids.
Yeah,
I'm amazed, that I saw.
I just had a hunch, but yeah, like Zoids was very noticeable whenever there was like the anime character and the CGI model. In Spy Family, you kind of have to squint a little bit to be like, there it is. But yeah, once you see it, you can't unsee it. But how do you feel about Spy Family?
From what I read so far, is quite an amazing story.
Mm-hmm.
It has its moments of like, oh hey, this is adorable.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really look into it, you go like, this is messed up.
Yeah. That's kind of the weird thing, and I love it whenever what's it called, an author can balance, like, the light-sided sides of life, and then immediately like shift to a dark place. So Spy Family does that really well. And I mentioned to friends before that whenever I'm trying to recommend it, that it feels like it's a perfect balance of a slice of life, family type thing. Like with the mom, the dad, and the daughter. They go about their daily life, and it's a perfect balance between that, a spy thriller, and and a comedy. It balances all three of those perfectly. Like, I never feel like the comedy takes away from the spy thriller. I never feel like the spy thriller takes away from the family life, and I don't feel like the family life is so boring that it can't be funny, because it's not boring at all. It actually pulls you in.
If to me, it feels more like this:
Mhm.
True Lies meet Mr. and Mrs. Smith
Yes. Oh my
with a
God.
hint of comedy.
Like, it's True Lies meets Mr. and Mrs. Smith if it was directed by Taika Waititi.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it is a really, really wholesome story too. Like, it is so weird that, like, in a story where all three main characters are lying to each other, that they have such a wholesome family dynamic that it's just like, wow. And it
And
is.
they play it off so well that nobody realizes.
Yes, and they play it off so well that nobody realizes. And it is so, like, how would I put this? Like, man, it just, like, it pulls on your heartstrings a lot. And not always in the same way. Like, so for example, when Anya's being freaking adorable, I mean, she's just like the mascot of this show. She's the Pikachu of Spy Family. Um, and so whenever she's being, like, just, uh, which she's 4, by the way.
She is 4, but the way that she schemes is like an evil villain.
Yeah, so, like, that's one thing that I heard someone say about Spy Family, is that, like, the author understands that kids aren't stupid. They're very perceptive, and they're very intelligent, but what they're lacking in is the world experience to be any kind of useful with the things they know. And that's so true about Anya, because I always feel like, okay, she is not dumb. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's.
Okay. Let me correct you though.
Okay.
She is dumb. That's the thing. She is dumb.
Well,
even the test scores go like, "You're dumb."
Okay, so she's not intelligent, but she's not stupid. And the way that I love that somebody described it is that they're like, okay, so she's got like a really awesome set of skills, but she has maybe like a quarter of the intelligence stat that she needs to use it.
Oh my goodness.
So,
that nailed it.
yeah, so she's got like maybe 25% of the intelligence stat she needs to be any kind of useful. So I'm like, yeah, I feel that, because, like, we've mentioned, like, she knows what people around her are thinking. She's a telepath, and she knows how to manipulate them to do exactly what she hopes they'll do. But the thing about it is, everything she thinks she understands from like a child's perspective. So, like, for example, she knows that her dad's a spy, and that there's a cold war going on between the countries, which is Astania and Westalis. So she knows that that their tensions are high, and that that there might be a war. She feels this, and she knows that her dad's trying to stop that from happening. But she thinks that, like, for example, like she thinks that she can make it not happen if she just does the bare minimum.
World peace. Everything that she does, she assumes that will create world peace.
Right. So she's like, if I get a dog and I take my dog to my rival's house so that we can be friends, then that will bring about world peace. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, that's a gross oversimplification, but I guess it's like you're not wrong, but you're also like very far from right. So it is so funny to watch her just kind of be like, okay, so A plus B, so world peace. It's like, no. Like, that there's a lot more that needs to happen, but your heart's in the right place, you know?
And the other thing that's happening too is that her dad and her uncle, they're rivals.
Yes. So the basic premise, and I guess it would help to like kind of like establish like what everybody's doing here. But so the story is about the main three, but it starts off with Lloyd, and Lloyd is a spy for Westalis. And
Twilight.
and basically his whole thing is he knows that Ostania is making shady moves, and it looks like they might what's it called, push this Cold War that they've been living in into a full-blown actual war. So he, being a spy for Westalis, goes undercover into Ostania, trying to get to the main guy who's trying to start the war, and trying to see what he can do to stop it. So the way that he's going to do this, because the guy's kind of a recluse, is by obtaining a child and wife and enrolling her into the same school where the main villain's son goes, and trying to infiltrate his inner circle that way, because that academy is the only public outing that the guy ever goes to. So he figures, okay, get my kid, enroll her in the same school. She goes to like the Imperial Scholar functions, just like the guy's gonna be there. So whenever I get invited because I'm her dad, I can get close to him and kind of figure out what he's doing. But he's given like a week to find a wife and child. So
that's the thing too, that he's not married with kids.
No, he's not married with kids. So he's got a week to figure out how to get a wife and child. So he gets Anya from the shadiest orphanage that exists. Like that.
Yep.
They don't even ask him for paperwork. They're just like, yeah, take her. And
take her.
And the thing that he doesn't realize is that Anya ended up in this orphanage because she's a runaway from a government experiment that gave her telepathy. So she escaped the organization that made her into a telepath and has been hiding out as an orphan. And it's just his bad luck that he's a spy who has a daughter who can read his mind. And of course, you know, she's excited as hell because she's a fan of like spy shows. So as soon as she hears his thoughts that he's a spy, oh man, she's all in. She's like, fuck yeah, let's go.
I'm gonna win you over.
Yeah, I'm gonna win you over. You are my papa now, and I'm gonna help you in your missions. And you know, like, but here's the thing: she doesn't want him to know that she can read his mind, because the people that were studying her would often use her, you know, and they would, and so she figured out real quick that if people know that she can read minds, they might use her, just like the scientists were doing. So she doesn't want to do that. So instead, you know, she just pretends like she's an ordinary kid, doesn't let anyone know that she can read minds. And so her spy father has no clue that she knows what he's thinking at all times.
Yes, Pimp Demon, that's exactly what's happening over there.
Yes.
That describes it.
She's like a character in Dark Souls that is missing one point in strength. And yeah, exactly. That is precisely it. Anya is in Dark Souls but doesn't have the stats required to equip her powers. Then we have the mom, who is Yor, and Yor is killer for hire. And the thing about Yor is that she's socially awkward. So she always kind of stands out, not in a bad way, but like people are always kind of like, there's not something not quite right with her, which is dangerous because again, this is a Cold War. So anyone who looks enough suspicious or suspicious enough, um, is subject to be cornered by their secret police and thrown into a jail cell. And the fact that she's socially awkward and that she's 27 years old and not married and or not even seeing someone, kind of like starts to make her look a little suspicious in her coworkers' eyes. So she's like, okay, I need to find myself a pretend boyfriend. And whenever she's thinking this, Anya and Lloyd are there, and Anya picks up on it. And she also picks up on, oh, she's an assassin? That's cool too.
Yep.
So she kind of starts pulling strings to get them together. So she ends up making it, and one thing leads to another, and instead of just being pretend boyfriend and girlfriend, they end up being pretend husband and wife because Lloyd needs a wife so that he can attend the interviews at the school where he's trying to enroll Anya. So now you have the spy for Westalis, the assassin from Ostania, and the telepath who is posing as their daughter, and the spy is not aware what the other two are. The assassin is not aware of what the other two are. But the telepath knows exactly what everyone is and doesn't want to tell either of them.
And let's add to the bunch a dog that can see the future.
Right. They do eventually get a dog. And the dog, I feel, was created in the same government experiment that created Anya. So like the government was creating people who could read minds so that they could use it in their soldiers for the war, and they created Anya, and she was a success. And they were also trying to create animals who were intelligent, so that they could aid humans on the battlefield. And so they created the dog Bond, who can see the future. But here's the thing: he's a dog, so he can't tell them that he can see the future. So they just assumed that the experiment was a failure. And they just kind of like threw him away. So like eventually one thing leads to another, and Anya realizes, hey, this dog can see the future. And she basically like, childs her way into the possession of this dog. Like I want this doggy, and they're like, okay, we'll get you a dog. So like the dog can see the future, and he can't tell anyone, but since Anya can read minds, she can see what he sees. And then the dad and the mom are an assassin and a spy, and they don't know about it, and they also don't know that their daughter's a telepath, and they also don't know that their dog can see the future. Only Anya knows all of this. And it is the most hilarious thing, because she's always, she wants to be part of their world, so she's always, like, wanting so badly to help them whenever they're doing things, but she can't tell them that she wants to help them because she will, at that point, cat's out of the bag. They'll know that she can read minds. So she's always kind of like hinting at what's happening, like, so for example, if they're looking for like a thief or something, Anya will hint like, I wonder what's this over here, and like just kind of like very underhandedly pointing to where they should be looking, and it is the most hilarious interaction ever. So yeah, there's all that. So the story is basically kind of balances Lloyd's missions, yours jobs, Anya at school, and the war. And so like a lot of the times the missions kind of like are very funny, very lighthearted. Or like very like they have high stakes, but they get played very comedically. But then you have like the flashbacks for like when the war started. Like for example, when Lloyd was a kid, and that hits like a truck because it's very sobering. It's like.
It gets dark.
It gets really dark because, when you come to the realization that literally all of them are orphans. So Yor was orphaned because of the war. Lloyd was orphaned because of the war. Anya was taken away from her birth parents so that she could be an experiment. So she's orphaned because of the war. And so these 3 orphans are now a family. And so yeah, like a lot of the war stuff gets really dark, so like, for example, Yor is not an assassin because she likes killing. She's an assassin because, when the war started and she was orphaned, she had to provide for her little brother. She wanted to make sure that he was taken care of, so she kind of like threw herself into a line of work that paid well enough to support both of them, while at the same time basically throwing her childhood away. And Lloyd, whenever he lost his family in a bombing, he was an orphan, and he just basically flew around from orphanage to orphanage until he was old enough to become a soldier. And when he was a soldier, he was angry at the other country. He was actually kind of racist. He thought that people from Astania are all monsters. Like that's the only reason that they would have started this war. And it's not an easy trip for him, but eventually he does come to the realization that, hey, war is just an ugly thing, and there's no good guys or bad guys in war. There's only victims. So it's like super sobering. And it's so weird that you can go from like really, really lighthearted episodes where Anya's playing dodgeball at school, or when they're going to a aquarium to look at penguins, to just kind of like this really like hard hitting, like nobody wins in war. Like war is only for the rich to get richer while the poor people basically take each other out. And it's just like really, really weird. Like it's a weird shift, but it's not a bad shift. Like it really lands really well.
And it does. Every character, the characters that they do show, like the little guy that Anya has to befriend, he does have some development.
Yeah.
He's just not a kid that is just there to be there. No, you actually understand that the way that he's being raised is almost like they don't care about him at all.
Yes, exactly. So like every character does have like their motivations and like the harsh reality behind why they are, which it's kind of like the one thing that I didn't think that the manga would go into, because it felt to me like, okay, so this is very lighthearted, this is supposed to be really comedic, but then it does kind of get into those things, like, hey, like whenever there's war and whenever your main goal is to become better, or to just defeat the others, like the other side, the other country, you don't even look at them as they're human. You start pulling really underhanded tactics. You experiment on children, you experiment on animals. You don't care if you're making orphans left and right. You just do what you do, and the people in this world are living that reality. So even though she's found a family, she carries that with her, that like she's got to do what she's got to do because the world is ugly. And Lloyd, it's always just throwing him. As a matter of fact, there's several chapters where he's like very overworked, but he keeps doing what he's doing because he doesn't want people to suffer the way that he suffered either. And like you mentioned, Damien, which is the son for the main villain. Yeah, he's a rich boy. He's lived a very prestigious life. He goes to a very fancy school, but his father is more interested in winning a war than he is in his own son. So he feels like very, very ostracized, very, very abandoned. He doesn't have like a very, very wholesome family experience, as opposed to Anya, who has like the 2 parents who suffered a lot and who are trying to prevent wars from happening. And she has a very wholesome family life,
Even her friend seems more wholesome, though.
Yeah, Becky.
Becky,
yes. Becky, who... We talked in Kaiju number 8 about the 17-year-old having a crush on a 32-year-old. And then there's that one chapter where Becky, the 6-year-old, has a crush on Lloyd, the spy.
Oh yes, I read that. I read that and I was like, oh,
I was cracking
you
up.
better keep it. You better keep it there. Don't go any further.
No, it cracked me up how, like, she's in her own head, like, like, oh my gosh, he's so handsome. And I bet you that I could be a great mother to Anya. Anya, my classmate. It's just like, what is happening?
The way that Anya was trying to play it off, like, oh, Zion is gonna see my picture and he's gonna go like, oh, what a dog. But nope, he just kept on walking like.
Yeah, so it's hilarious. It's really wholesome. Lloyd and Yor, despite being like, coming from very broken realities, are actually really good parents. So Lloyd constantly thinking analytically about, what he needs to do to provide Anya with like with the best chances for success for both at the start for his mission, but I think as time goes on, because he actually cares about her. And Yor is there to provide the emotional support because that's who she is. So like together they make actually like a really wholesome parent unit. It's really weird.
And that works out. And also, the way that Yor is able to just get her brother to do what she wants.
Yes, right. The brother, by the way, one of the most hilarious characters. So, Yor and her brother Yuri are from Ostania, and Lloyd is from Westalis. So Lloyd is technically the enemy living in enemy territory. And Yor is an assassin for Ostania. She basically keeps, she assassinates government figures who are corrupt. And she doesn't know that her brother Yuri actually works for like what they call the secret police, which is basically like a government hit squad. And they're basically also looking for traitors and snuffing them out, basically deleting them from history. And so,
Which she's also looking for Twilight as well.
yeah. So their biggest enemy is Lloyd, aka Agent Twilight. And here's Yuri, like basically the biggest simp for his government. And his sister, whom he loves in a very creepy way.
Tell me about it.
He's like in love with his sister, man. You can't convince me otherwise. I'm like,
You cannot convince me otherwise. I'm like, dude, you are throwing up your food and saying that you love it.
I'm like, dude, you are in love with your sister. It is weird. So Yuri, the biggest simp for his government, who is in love with his sister, and his sister is married to the biggest enemy spy, and he has no clue. So it's a, oh my gosh, it's like this weird spider web of like the lies that people tell each other. And it is just masterfully played for both comedy and also for intrigue.
And enter the other rival of Yuri. No, of Yor.
Oh yes, Agent Nightfall.
Twilight's yep.
Agent Nightfall, who also works for Westalis, and she is like this tough as nails, hardened spy, like almost every bit as good as Agent Twilight. Almost, he's still the best, but she's pretty damn good, and she's in love with him. But she is like the biggest tsundere because she will never admit to it. She's like so stone cold, like detached, but on the inside she's got like these schoolgirl feelings for him.
Yep.
And of
and
course,
the fact that Anya picked it up.
Yes,
she was like,
exactly.
I love my mommy.
Exactly. Anya knows right out of the gate because she's Anya, but like nobody else has a clue. And it's just, and just the scenarios that you build around this. So like, Agent Nightfall comes to basically check on how the mission's going, but at the same time to just kind of gauge who this woman who is pretending to be married to the man she loves is. and she's basically doing everything to put Yor down in the eyes of Lloyd. And Anya's just kind of sitting here just being like, "Oh, mama, I love the way that you picked up the cocoa that I spilled. You are the best mama. I could never do anything without you." Just like really laying it on thick.
Yeah.
It's just like, God help me. And of course, like, like to the adults, what the hell is she talking about? I don't understand what this is about. But
She
like,
just simply wiped the cocoa.
it's like, so she's the best mother in the world because she picked up the cocoa that you spilled. I mean, it's good that you're thankful, but I don't understand what the big deal is. And like in her head, she's like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I'm keeping my family together." Oh Lord, it is a crazy, crazy read, man, and it is funny in all the weirdest ways. Let's see. Blark says it sounds and looks amazing. It is really, really great, and it's got a very cute art style, like compared to like Kaiju number 8 and Dandadan. The art style's a lot simpler. But that doesn't make it bad. It's got a lot of personality. It's very cute. And the characters have a lot of like very recognizable features. So I do think that the art style is a little softer. It's a lot more lighthearted, but it's a really, really good one. And it mixes the three different what do you call it? The three different genres of what it is just perfectly together, and it's good balance. So I would say that what Dandadan does for like cryptids and UFOs and ghosts, Spy Family does for comedy, spy thrillers, and slice of life. It is just a perfect weave of all the things that are the sum of its parts. Also, Anya's meme faces are just the best.
Yep. Everybody has them.
Everybody loves the Anya meme faces.
And when what's his name? When Damien just copied Anya's face right back at her. Like, yes, excellently done, my boss.
Yeah, like Damien, who's like that. So he's the son of like the biggest bad guy in Ostania, and he's got like two little lackeys who follow him around and call him Lord Damien. And it is just the funniest thing because, they're just like, "Lord Damien, you shouldn't let this rabble speak to you in such a fashion." I'm just like, God help me.
Even the T-shirt, when they ask, "Who did it?" "Oh, he did it to himself." "I don't believe you. You two are his lackeys."
Yeah, really. It's pretty hilarious, and like even some of the side characters get some really golden comedy moments. Like for example, Master Henderson, who's the headmaster of like of the classes that Anya's in.
Oh my goodness.
The guy who's all about elegance.
Thespian.
Everything must be elegant. I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, like it's a really solid manga. I would say that if I were to rate them, like in order. Oh, one more thing before we get to the rating. I do believe I have some theories here, and I have to hit on them. Firstly, I do believe that Yor is falling in love with Lloyd, but Lloyd isn't 100% of the way there yet. I feel like he's really into his family. I feel like he does care, but he's not aware that he cares about his family. I feel like Yor is falling in love with him because
up to the chapter that I got, yes, she actually seems to be falling in love with him.
Right. And
even a little bit jealous at times.
Yeah, she gets jealous at times. Like when Agent Nightfall showed up, she was legit jealous of her. They had a whole chapter, and I think it was like an extra chapter, like a side chapter, where what's it called? Where they go on a date. Like Lloyd goes on a date to just kind of like gauge where she's at in her head. And she feels like he might be cheating on her with what's it called, with Agent Nightfall,
Oh.
cheating on their fake marriage, right?
Oh my goodness.
And Yor gets drunk, and when she gets drunk, it all comes out. Like she's sitting there, it's like,
Oh.
so what? Is she prettier than me? What is it? And it's just kind of like Lloyd's like, wait, what is happening? So
That's the thing about Yor. She cannot handle her drink.
No,
and
Yor
her
cannot.
brother cannot even handle his drinks either.
No, they can't handle their drinks whatsoever. But okay, I do take that back, because I do see one of the pictures here on the slideshow. And it is when Agent Nightfall visited them at their house. But she did make notice, she did mention that Agent Twilight, Lloyd, is very icy. He's very detached. He's got like this very whatever demeanor. And he's always mission first, right? But Agent Nightfall, who's basically his second, notices that he's kind of softening up a lot ever since he's been in this family. That his walls are down, and that his smile isn't a fake smile, which he's the man of 1,000 faces. So he's very good at pretending. But she realizes this isn't pretending. He is 100% legitimately happy. So it's kind of like, so maybe he's not aware that he's falling in love, and he's not like there yet, but I do feel like that the feelings are there, and he's been so detached from his feelings for so long that he doesn't realize it. Whereas Yor, she's not as detached from his feelings. So I feel like she's probably not admitting it to herself, but she probably feels like there's something going on with her. And I do think that there was a chapter where she realized it and kind of like immediately started trying to push it out of her head. But yeah, so I do feel like the two main leads will eventually end up as an actual legit couple. One thing that I found out somewhere that the author does in his mangas, because apparently this isn't his first manga, he's actually done a few in the past. One recurring theme with him is that eventually he makes the main woman lead be put into a situation where she has to try and kill the main male lead. And because Lloyd
I can see that happening though.
Exactly, right? So since Lloyd is a spy for Westalis and Yor is an assassin for Ostania, it's possible that it may come to a point where she might be ordered to kill Lloyd. And if not by her own organization, it might be that her brother, who's working for basically his government, might discover who Lloyd is.
Oh, shoot. Yes.
And because he's related to Yor might have a very difficult choice as to whether or not she wants to back her brother or stay with Lloyd. So, like, this is something that, they have never touched on the manga whatsoever, but a lot of people are like, this could be a very real thing that happens. So I'm kind of like on the fence about it. I do feel like chances are higher that Yuri will find out who Lloyd is, and that'll put like a strain on the family. But I also could see it that Yor's handlers order her to kill Lloyd, and now we have that going on.
Yeah, and there's also the slight chance that if once she discovers who Lloyd is, she's gonna go like, this all makes sense.
Yeah. Like, so basically, it's an entire family dynamic built on a bunch of lies, and sooner or later, that house of cards has to fall. So, like, the question, and I bet you, okay, so they do have an out to this, I feel. Like, if they ever do discover it, then Anya is gonna be the one to kind of, like, patch things up. I feel like Anya would be the one to, like, bring them back together. She reads minds, and she could expose a lot of things that the others were not aware of. Just kind of like put it out there that, like, hey, yeah, you might be from enemy nations, but that doesn't make you enemies.
Exactly.
Like, you've been working towards the same thing. You don't want You don't want people to suffer, so you take out the corrupt people. And Lloyd, you don't want to see any war that will orphan children the way that it orphaned you. So you've been trying to quell it before it starts, you know?
In that scenario, I feel like Anya is gonna also reveal what she is.
Yes.
Which then everything, all the masks will be off.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, I know that you're an assassin. I know you're a spy, and I know that you read minds, you little cheater.
you little shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that chapter, whenever they eventually get to it, will be just like, wow. I am already invested in the House of Cards comes crashing down chapter. I want to see what happens. I want to see Lloyd be exposed for a spy. I want to see Yor be exposed for the assassin, and I want to see Anya come out as a telepath. And also tell everyone that the dog can see the future, which I don't think they'll believe her, but...
You could just say, hey, Dad, you remember that time that you made that burger? The hamburger? That's how I knew you were making hamburger.
Yeah, the dog saw it in the future, yes.
Yes.
So, it's just... It is really well-written intrigue, and, like, it's stacking up like, you know, just like a Jenga tower, and then like now that it's built, because I feel like we've gotten the foundation down, they've started removing the blocks one by one. You know, like, for example, Lloyd has met his target face to face, and they didn't.
Oh yes, that's the chapter that I left on.
Yes, and a lot didn't come from it, but he has established contact, so that's like that was his aim, and he got there. And even though he didn't achieve a lot, he did, you know, do exactly what he set out to do. Anya has somehow made it so that the boy that was their initial way to the target have a crush on her. So there's their second way in. And then lastly, if you left off on the chapter where Lloyd met his target, this is a little bit of a spoiler.
That's fine. Go for it.
But Yor one day goes grocery shopping and accidentally joins a women's volleyball team. You know how Yor is. She's kind of ditzy and kind of like gets dragged into things because she's not thinking.
She's a monster.
Yeah.
She freaking cut a tennis ball with a racket.
Yeah, she swung the racket so hard that it like, what's it called? Cut right through the tennis ball, yes. But, so, Yor is very strong, but she's a little airheaded. So, you know, she went grocery shopping and she ended up joining a women's volleyball league, right? But in this women's volleyball league, she made a friend who was like being super friendly to her, and it turns out she's Damien's mom.
Oh.
So Lloyd has met what's his name? Desmond. I forget what his first name is. Donovan Desmond. Lloyd has met his target. Anya is on her way to become friends with Damien Desmond, the target's son. And Yor is now friends and on a volleyball team with Mrs. Desmond. So the entire family...
So he got a way in then.
Lloyd has a way in 3 different ways. And it completely by accident. So...
Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely like something crazy. One character that we haven't mentioned, and I feel like we should mention because even though he's not part of the main cast, he does show up a lot, and he is one of my favorite characters, is Frankie.
Oh, the assistant that wore the pretty face like once.
Yes. Frankie, Lloyd's contact, his tech guy, his informant, you know,
his babysitter.
His babysitter. Every time Lloyd needs to go on a mission, he leaves Anya with Frankie. And here's the thing that I have to say about Frankie is that Frankie is a grown man and technically an informant to spies, but he has the same exact energy that Anya does. He can match her wit for wit. And that is the most hilarious thing to me, that, you know, like, he doesn't want to be a babysitter. However, Like every time he babysits Anya, he's like Anya's sidekick.
Yeah, exactly. Come with me. You want to know what's happening here?
Yes.
I do. So do I. Let's go.
One thing that I don't know if you got, it was an extra chapter. I don't know like if you ran into it, but it was the one where Yor had gone on a NASA excuse me. Yor had gone on an assignment, and when she did, she thought that everyone was dead, but one guy was alive, and he shot her in the butt.
Yes, I actually saw it. And the fact that Anya knew what's happening, but Lloyd was like, oh, she's pissed.
Yeah.
How did I make it up to her?
Yeah, Lloyd is under the impression, since he's a spy, he's trying to maintain the family unit. So whenever Yor comes out of her room and she just looks pissed off, and it's because she got shot in the ass, and she's in so much pain. And Anya knows what it is, but like Lloyd has no idea, so he assumes that it's something he did.
Let's sit down and eat.
Yeah.
No.
Let's sit down and eat. But she got shot in the ass, so she's like, no, I don't want to sit down. And what's the other one? He's like, you know what? He's trying to smooth it out. Let me take you out on a date. Let me take you out on the town. We're gonna do stuff together. I've been neglecting you. And so, like, what is it? Like, he rents out a limousine. He's like, yeah, come on in, sit in the limousine. And she's like, nope. It's just like. And he's like, damn it, this must be worse than I thought. She won't even get in the limousine. And she's just like, my ass hurts so much.
And the whole thing that patched things up and made it seem like, hey, I actually did the right thing with Yor. Was a guy trying to poison Yor.
Yeah, he recognizes her as the woman who killed his whole crew. So he tries to feed her poison, but Yor, as we've established, is kind of a monster. She's super strong and super resilient. So when she drinks the poison, all it does is it acts as a painkiller. So all of a sudden her ass doesn't hurt anymore. So she's just like, wow, this is really good wine. And it's not wine at all. It's pufferfish poison. And so, like, after that, she's in a lot better mood. So Lloyd's all like, the date worked. Like, I took her out on a date, and now she's fine. And now she's back to normal. We're happy. The family unit can stay together. My cover isn't blown. Fantastic. And I'm just sitting here like, oh, my God. I'm like,
and also on that same episode, Anya acted like a spy when she got to the
that's right,
to the bad guy.
Because Frankie and Anya wanted to see how this went down. So Anya basically like donning her Charlie's Angels get up. Let's go, Frankie. We're incognito, and Frankie, of course, because he's her sidekick, he's just like, all right. So like they're in full disguise, following them around like they're not perfectly conspicuous. Oh man, it is peak comedy, man. Spy Family is just hilarious, and so is each and every one of these other manga. But like, I feel like we've properly explained all of them. So now, Dare, you've been sitting there awful quiet this entire time. Yeah,
too quiet.
Yeah.
Well, I fell asleep. What happened?
Okay, back from the start then. Kaiju number 8.
Kaiju number 8.
No. So, from what you guys described, like, they all are something that they're interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Of the three, probably Kaiju number 8 would be like the one that I'd put up at the top. Just like the thought of, oh, this is an old guy who doesn't make his dream, so he's just a janitor, but he gets one final chance to be the kaiju fighter, but he sucks, and he can only like access like a percentage of the power from his suit.
1%.
That sounds just like a good story of like your average day person just trying to live a life.
Yeah, he is
the hero.
He is the Spider-Man of shonen protagonists.
So that'll be number 1.
Okay.
number 2, I have to say Spy Family would be number 2.
Yep.
Just because, like, before this, the only thing I knew was Anya is like the new Kana.
Yes.
She's just like the most adorable character in any anime that whatever she does, whether it be something malicious or not, it's just it's adorable. And then you're just like, oh, and there's other characters to the show too.
Yes.
That so like I'd say probably Spy Family would be like the one that I would most likely watch. I don't think I'd read the manga for it. Probably get that Crunchyroll Prime and watch that Spy Family on there.
No, I would highly recommend it. The anime is really faithful to the adaptation. Is a faithful adaptation of the manga, and I do have to say this: the anime presently, with 11 episodes, is only up to the 17th chapter of the manga.
Oh my!
Out of 60.
And then the last one, like which. Dandadan, I'm not going to say it sounds bad because it doesn't sound bad. It sounds hilarious. When you're like, it's something really weird and crazy, and I didn't expect it. I was thinking, is it like Bobobo? Because that's just another string of random sounds that people put together. But no, it's
Bobobo versus Dandadan.
From what you described, Dandadan is nothing like Bobobo.
No.
Like
I mean,
if they do like a crossover,
same energy, but like very different delivery, I would say.
Yeah, I think there's actually a plot to Dandadan.
There
from
is.
What you guys said, where Bobobo was just, I don't even know what the heck happened in that show. It was something else. It was a ride.
It was a ride.
But yeah, I basically kept the list in the order you gave, except I switched Spy Family and Dandadan around. But yeah, they all sound really interesting and fun and exciting and funny, and Anya and yeah.
I love how you highlighted that Anya, everything she does is adorable, which it is. But like the way that you were describing it did remind me of that one episode, which I think is the last episode that aired, which is Penguin Park. Which
oh goodness.
Which she gets like the giant stuffed penguin from Penguin Park, and then the last little bit of the episode is where she's introducing her stuffed penguin to her stuffed chimera, and framing it as if she's welcoming the penguin into her own spy organization. And she's basically like going around showing him the house, like, oh, this is the TV, this is where you get missions and stuff. And it's all like, it's not missions, you're watching cartoons. And it's like, this is the potty where you come to heal after big fights. This is Agent Papa, he's really knowledgeable. This is Agent Mama, she's strong but she's bad at everything else.
And then she gets to their room.
Right.
That's when it stops, like, nope.
She tries to go into their rooms, and Lloyd's are like, wait a minute, all my guns are in my room, and yours are like, all of my knives and poison are in my room. You don't want to go into those. So she's like, oh, you guys are so mean, I'm going to run away. So, what is it that they immediately, they're like, okay, well, we need to stop her from crying, and they're both not real parents, so they panic, and the best way to do it is just like, okay, so Lloyd picks up the stuffed penguin, and he's all like, oh, Agent Anya, there's no time for tears, we have to move on to the next mission and stop the bad guys. And Yor picks up like the toy robot, is like, affirmative, you cannot cry, we need to stop the bad guys. And Anya basically just like picks up on it immediately, and she's all like, okay, the bad guys went to the candy store, come on. It's just like, damn it. Yeah, she's an adorable little shithead. Is what I'm trying to say here.
Adorable little shithead.
Like,
And also Bond gets jealous.
Yeah. That's not in the anime yet, but yes, the dog does get jealous of the stuffed penguin and tears it apart. It's a whole thing, a whole episode where she's all like, "I hate you, you killed him," and the dog's all like, "You just weren't paying attention to me." Although, if I do have to mention one episode that I'm looking forward to, I am looking forward to this episode. This will be my favorite episode. There's a joke, a continual joke that goes on through Spy Family that Yor can't cook. All of her cooking might as well be you eating like rat poison. It is bad. And it is a surprise that her brother made it to adulthood. But, you know, it is a miracle and a mystery altogether. And one day, the dog, Bond, is asleep, and then he gets a vision of the future, but his future is blank. So he starts putting two and two together. He's like, "Why?
Oh no!
Why is my future blank? Could it be that I'm about to die?" So he starts going through like all these things in his head, like, you know, like, are the scientists that made me gonna find me? And if they do, are they gonna shoot me? Or like, what's gonna happen, this and that? And then yours are like, "Oh, Bond, you're out of dog food, I'm gonna have to cook you something." And so he immediately clicks. It's like, "Oh no, if she feeds me, I'm gonna die." So like he starts running through like the different scenarios, like, what do I do? Okay, if she puts the food down, I could just refuse to eat it, but if I refuse to eat it, she's an assassin, so she could get mad and murder me. Or like, if like, what could I do? Okay, I could run away and go find Lloyd, and if I find Lloyd, he can cook and I won't die. So like the dog just runs away from home cooking to go find Lloyd, who's in the middle of an infiltration mission. And just to help him with the mission so that he can come back home and cook so that he won't die. Oh man. That's gonna be my favorite episode of the anime once it comes out, because that is just like, what, the level of absurdity in this comedy, man. But there you have it, everyone. Dareinger has said his rankings go Kaiju number 8, Spy Family, and Dandadan. And let's see, everyone in the chat, please let us know which is your favorite. What would your list look like? Pimp Demon, good night. Have safe dreams. Yeah, so let us know what would your favorites be. Me personally, I think that I like Dare's list. To me, like, the problem is it's always shifting. It's always either going to be Kaiju number 8 at 1 or Spy Family at 1. But Dandadan can sometimes be at number 2 and sometimes tied for number 1. So I don't know. Like, it depends on the day. Like today, I'm like, yeah, definitely Spy Family number 1. King of Canadian Hill says 3-way tie. I feel like that most days. So, Brother Gamma, what would your list look like?
My list. That's the thing, though. When I started when you introduced me to Kaiju number 8,
mm-hmm.
and then Spy Family,
mm-hmm.
I was already on Dandadan.
Yeah, so you were already on Dandadan.
And then it changed to Kaiju number 8.
Because it's really good.
It's just so good. I was like, 2 days later, I'm already done. It caught up.
Yeah.
Then there's Dandadan and Spy Family. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, I like it, but there's times that the dialogue on it is so long.
That's true. There is sometimes where it's a lot of exposition.
And I'm like, okay, I could skip through this. Okay, this is where the things start off right here.
Yeah. And yeah, it can be like super political sometimes. So I mean, yeah, there is that. Not that they delve too deep into the politics. They kind of keep it very surface level. You know, like yeah, Estonia's trying to start a war. We don't know why, but they are. And what's it called? Westalis is trying to prevent the war. We don't know how, except Lloyd's mission, Operation
Lloyd.
Strix. But we don't know what he's gonna do once he gets into Donovan Desmond's inner circle. So it's always like very surface level. So, but yeah, there's that. So yeah, everybody, that's our list. Thank you to everyone who showed up. We had September Dragon, we had Pimp Demon, we had As the Raven Dreams was here. Patience G was the very first person in the chat.
What?
Yeah, we had I'm sorry, I'm
King of the Canadian Hill.
King of the Canadian Hill. I was about to say I can't see the chat because I am presently doing a thing at work.
Blark Moo was
Hey,
here.
no. Don't be saying that. They will catch up on to you.
They can't prove it's me. But Blark Moo was here for a little bit too, yes.
And you said Pimp Demon, correct?
I did. I done
Yes.
said it. So thank you guys for showing up. This has been episode 18 of the Nevermore Nerds, and we have given you a list of things to read. You guys should check it out if you can. Oh, Hair Racing Narratives is here too. Did you just get here, Hair? I didn't see you before. Or he...
I was watching the chat this whole time since I wasn't like talking or anything. I didn't see here come in. He's here now.
Yeah, but we're happy to have you here. But thank you everybody for stopping by the chat. This has been your favorite bard, and saying once you join the collective, you can leave Nevermore. And we will catch you in the next episode next Sunday. Hasta luego, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.